I had to so as a mercy. Vladimir Putin, Russia, Montpellier, at the assembly about to Ghana, or Chese, Africa for Omumbi or Masum, not Omonfi woman, not Omonfi pa Sanse. Emmanuel Macron, France President Emmanuel Macron. On this Zelensky, di Kasasian Koma, or more plan say or more terrorist, back a year West Africa, most especially, Sir Alliance of Sahel State for now, or more Kabu AES, or more percent tourists, or more, not or more people more say, and Rantiwi, Anya Biano, Yenya Captain Ibrahim Traore, or more Makanibinia and Muba. Eti Putin said, Omunfi Omani, Omumbio Masuna, or watch out. Now, Macron is planning evil against Africans.
Key security ally of many African nations, now it has made a big accusation against the ex-colonial ruler France. Moscow has accused French President Emmanuel Macron of teaming up with terrorists to destabilize Africa.
Another shot has been fired, but not on a battlefield. This one was fired in the shadows of global intelligence and diplomatic war, and the accusation didn't come from a rebel group, a fringe militia, or a struggling state. It came from one of the world's most powerful intelligence services. The targets, Emmanuel Macron and Ukraine, a nation already locked in a war that has reshaped global politics. The claim is explosive, that France, under Macron's leadership, and Ukraine are not just influencing Africa, but actively sponsoring terrorism on the continent. If true, this would upend diplomatic relations, redraw alliances, and force the world to ask an uncomfortable question: who really benefits from instability in Africa? But in global politics, the loudest accusations often hide the deepest layers. Truth, power, propaganda, and strategic interests collide here. Follow the motives and uncover what's really driving this war of words. The storm began when Russia made a startling move. Its officials publicly accused two unlikely players of fueling terrorism in Africa. The first was France, led by President Emmanuel Macron. The second was Ukraine, a nation already locked in a brutal war for its own survival. According to Russian officials and state-linked media, both countries were allegedly supporting armed groups operating across parts of Africa, especially in the Sahel, where insecurity has surged in recent years. Moscow claimed that weapons, training, and intelligence were being quietly funneled to militant groups. The goal, they said, was to destabilize African governments that had begun turning away from Western influence. Put simply, Russia was making a bold argument that terrorism in Africa is not just a local problem, and that powerful foreign governments are secretly helping it grow. These accusations weren't whispered. They were repeated by Russian diplomats at international forums and amplified across state-controlled media, turning a regional security crisis into a global war of narratives. Russian officials argued that some Western countries were losing political control in Africa and were now turning to violence as a way to regain influence. France was singled out first. For decades, it maintained a heavy military presence in the Sahel, especially in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, where French troops once led major counterterrorism missions. Ukraine was the second target. Moscow accused Ukraine of secretly providing support and training to certain armed groups operating in the region. Kyiv, however, strongly denied the allegations. The reaction was immediate. France dismissed the claims as lies and propaganda. Ukraine called them completely false and part of Russia's wider information war. But in Africa, the accusations landed differently. Many leaders and ordinary citizens were already deeply suspicious of foreign interference. To them, Russia's claims didn't sound impossible. They fit into a growing belief that external powers profit from instability and chaos on the continent. Others urged caution. They warned that Russia itself could be using Africa as a geopolitical stage, turning local insecurity into a battlefield for its rivalry with the West and spreading accusations to weaken the reputations of France and Ukraine. And that's where the story becomes complicated, because at this point, the fight is no longer just about terrorism. It's about narratives, influence, and who gets to shape Africa's future. What made this moment especially dangerous was the timing. In recent years, France has been steadily losing influence across West Africa. Military agreements collapsed, troops withdrew, long-standing partnership.
Abusia the truth so. Burkina, Niger, and Mali. More new imagine say or matamfo no wa back it off. Never. Still, Macron, Edaso, Edinelli, Ediomachi. The truth so.
This is why many analysts believe these accusations aren't